part 2 of our 2019 Game of the Year. We have 16 games. I'm going to repeat them in case you're watching the second part at a different time. But if not, sorry for the redundancy. Right now, we have Slay the Spire, Resident Evil 2, Ape Out, Devil May Cry 5, Baba Is You, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Observation, Outer Wilds, Cadence of Hyrule, Super Mario Maker 2, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Control, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Disco Elysium, Death Stranding, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Those are the 16 that we have left. We got to cut 6, get to a top 10, and then we're going to order it. Whose turn was it? Me?
Oh, yeah.
Woof.
Top of the list. Good start.
I think that based on everything we've said in these deliberations, I think Super Mario Maker 2 is not going to make our top 10.
I was slowly coming across to say that I didn't think it was going to make our personal top 10.
I don't think it's going to make
Again, it's still going to be in mine.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah.
I really like it a lot. I do not think it's going to be in our personal top 10 based on the relationship that we have to that as a whole.
Oh, because of me?
Yeah, you jerk.
All right.
I love that
Dan, what
game.
you got, buddy?
All right, guys.
Was that an ad for The Grudge?
All right, guys. Yeah.
What you got, buddy?
Cadence of Hyrule. I said it.
Yeah, you said it, huh?
And I don't want it
it's
to.
tough.
I don't want it to be like I don't love it because I do, and that's
But you know what it is, though, is we kind of all knew that it wasn't going to make the cut, but we like it so much that we're like kind of looking
But that's
at
what I
it.
mean.
say it.
I do love it, and it's one of those things like. I was talking about how well you said it, Shelby. You said it, and it was so true. The 7, 8, 9, 10 spot is actually the hardest because there's like
definitely
15 games that could be there, and honestly, on a given day, Cadence of Hyrule might be my 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th favorite game of this year. I'm starting to think that maybe it would be more of like my 9th or 10th, or just make it at the 10th.
Right.
It's a tough one, man.
And I don't know.
That's a very good game.
I called it. I enjoyed it
It's a
so
very
much.
good game.
Never playing Crypt of the Necrodancer except we were hanging out one time and I was watching you play it, Dan. But I enjoyed it so much. I love the boss design. I love the enemy design. I just love the whole aesthetic. The music is phenomenal. Fighting to the beat. There's just so much to love about the game, and I just had an absolute blast with it. But now we're getting to the point where it's just.
Yep. I'm with you, Dan. I hear you.
It's a tough cut, but
It's a very tough cut.
yeah, you were just the one to say it first. I'm trying to see how long it could last. Oh man! All right.
All right, Shelby.
All right, so you know what? I'm just going to start off. Let's talk about a game we haven't talked about yet. We have a few of those on the list, and I want to start at the top. Slay the Spire is a great game. That's why it's made it this far on the list. You know,
Slay the Spire is a great game.
Yeah. And this is not this is not a game I don't typically play card-based turn-based games like that, and I really enjoyed this game. Like, I don't think I've really talked about it on the podcast, but I've played this game on several occasions by myself, just going and going through the line. Like, I like this game a lot, and I think we even made a video on it, and I enjoyed every second of it. I want to see why it deserves to be or not be on this list by people who have played it a bit more than I have.
You know what I love about it? I was in the same boat. I wasn't really into card games ever. This game it was weird. This game made me into it. Mm-hmm. And I totally wasn't my style, wasn't my genre. I remember Dan telling me, "Oh, dude, this game would be so cool." And I'm like, it's not my thing. What's crazy about this game is it made me love it. Like
Yeah.
it made me enjoy what it was.
Yeah.
So
And-
for me, that's the staying power of it, and it's super high on the list. If it's not a collective thing, it's totally cool. It kind of squeezed in my personal list at least, just because it made me enjoy it. It made me love this style of game now, where I would never try a dicey dungeon beforehand, but Slay the Spire was so technically perfect in what it was doing. That's my feelings on it.
And tough.
And
Tough
really
game.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, really hard.
Definitely
But
tough.
that's just my feelings on it.
I really like Slay the Spire. It's definitely on my list.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super high on my list because this is, like we always keep saying, this is a very good year with very, very good games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Slay the Spire, I've been playing since it was in early access last year, and I have kind of went along with the game and learned the new cards that they added and the new hero that they added. I just think it's a fantastic game, and they keep coming up with good new ideas for it, and I love it. I think it's a top 10 game of the year.
So you think it lasts another round?
Yeah, but we're not really there though.
Yeah.
We're getting down to it.
I know.
This is hard.
We might be at the point where if you want to keep a game, you nominate something else for cutting.
Okay.
Rather than
I like that.
making
Right.
that person keep nominating because there are only so many now.
I like that idea,
Yeah.
Dan.
So if we're keeping Slay the Spire, you see, and here's where it gets hard, is like, what do I nominate for cutting that I haven't already nominated for cutting that has gotten held?
Well, I think that maybe now this is where the gloves have to come off, and we really have to, So if you really feel strongly about a game being cut,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe we take a vote then.
Well, no vote, but I think I know what you're saying. And my issue that I would have is Slay the Spire is not the game that I would fight hardest for on this
Okay.
list.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're saying, well,
It's either that
let's
or
cut it,
Death
or you
Stranding.
start fighting for it, I'm going to say, all right, I guess we're cutting it.
Okay.
But I think there are definitely other games that can be cut before that.
Well, I
but
made
I
other
had-
nominations. You guys kept them on.
I had already brought it up. I had already brought these up though, and I don't know. You know what I mean?
Which
So,
one? Which one was the ones that you brought up? It was Devil May Cry.
Devil May Cry,
An observation.
observation, and then we're eventually gonna have to talk about Star Wars and Death Stranding.
Yeah.
I know we've been.
Sitting
Those are
there
the
at
two
the-
that we're
At
just
the
holding
foot
off
of our
on.
list.
Yeah,
And Resident Evil 2, because truthfully, those three
Oh,
Resident
we
Evil
didn't talk about that one either.
Resident Evil 2, Death Stranding, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So when I was trying to make my list, they were all. Which one do I put 9 and 10? They're not my favorite games of the year, but they were all so. The feelings I have towards all of them, I think.
So you here? I just want to. So you like Devil May Cry 5 better than all three of those?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
But that's just me. This is a personal
Yeah, I know.
thing.
All right. I just want to know. I'm trying to get a gauge of the room. You know.
A lot of salt in the air.
Oh, am I being?
no salt.
Am
No
I,
salt.
am I salty?
No, not at all. Yeah, it's gonna get interesting because
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm outnumbered on Slay the Spire and we don't think it's
Listen,
a top 10 game, then it
I
can go.
enjoyed Slay the Spire. Again, I nominated Ape Out before
Yeah.
and got knocked down. I would take
So-
out Ape Out before I would take out Slay the Spire. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
You know what's weird? On my top 10,
They're
I have
both
Slay the Spire and not Ape Out.
Interesting.
But for some reason, I feel like Ape Out should be on this list.
I
And
have
Slay the
both on my
Spire
top
can come
10.
off.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go Slay the Spire then, if we feel like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
I'm sorry I
like
said
that
like
game a
that.
lot.
That's that. Like you just said, that game turned me on to a genre of games
Yeah.
I don't really have. Not that I don't really play, that I have not played before.
Right. Which I think really speaks to
You know,
how.
yeah. And I
how
know
good it
Ralph
is.
loves Slay the Spire too. You
Mhm.
know, like he's so it's It's not just an us thing.
Right.
Right. It's not just
Right.
If we're gonna do the same thing, we're making a circle back list. Devil May Cry 5. I'm okay seeing it go. It was one that I've enjoyed for so long, and I think because it had that staying power, that's why I found it so easy to put on my list. Because I guess I try to be wary of I try to be wary of recency bias. So like what I was saying before about Death Stranding and Star Wars, where I was like, maybe it's just too fresh in my head right now to properly judge it. But you know what? As a collective, if Devil May Cry 5.
I really like Devil May Cry 5, but for me, when I look at this list, it's kind of on the weaker side out of this group.
Like you're saying, Devil May Cry 5 isn't a game that I feel strong enough fighting for. But
okay. So let's take out Devil May Cry 5.
All right.
How many do we have now? I lost count.
Oh, I just hit a lot of L's to Devil.
Devil.
It's right next to the delete.
1, 2, 3.
Ooh, 12.
12. So 2 left. 2 left.
We're still going in turn order. Or we kind of just. Can we talk about the most mixed review game of the year? With
Is
Death
it time?
Stranding?
Do we bring it up?
We could do it if you want to do
like
it.
I feel like this is one of the most anticipated and mixed reviewed games of the year.
Let's do it.
Another game I've spent the least amount of time with, where there's nothing I dislike about this game yet. In the first 4 hours, there's a lot I still don't understand, and I think that's a Kojima thing. Like he leaves a lot to wonder. Maybe I figure it out down the line. But as to you two, obviously played a lot more of this.
Right.
So
well, yeah. Dan beat the.
Let me
the
know
whole thing.
what you guys think.
I beat it. Dan played.
I'm somewhere tail end of chapter 3.
20-something hours.
Yeah.
All right.
And I know the chapters are weird, right? I mean, some
weird.
chapters just one chapter's 20 minutes,
scene,
and then one's 45 hours, and it's like.
All right, so I have a bunch of notes here about Death Stranding. I took them as I was playing.
All right, pull them out.
So I'm just gonna kind of go through them, and then I'll talk overall about how I feel about the game. So I'm gonna talk about Fragile first. Have you seen the scene in the game yet, or no? You did? Okay. So. There's a scene, so Fragile, they call her Fragile, actually, so I'll call her Fragile. She had Timefall hit her all over her body except for her face. So she is all old and wrinkly, so she stays covered up. And eventually you get a cutscene where you find out, what happened. And Higgs, the Troy Baker main antagonist character, who we'll get to because he's the worst antagonist ever,
love Troy Baker.
I
love Troy Baker.
The best ever.
And he actually is good in this. He's
Yeah.
chewing up a lot of scenery, but it's a bad character. So she basically Higgs was her main antagonist. Think of it like she was the main character in a previous video game. That's how you should think about it, because she kind of has her own story, and then it's done, and you're the new person. Mm-hmm. And in her story, Higgs made her. He had a bomb, and he said, if you don't want this bomb to go off, you need to run and throw it in the pit, which you actually do, and that's what spurs on this thing. So there's this big tar pit, and he says, you need to go. It's raining. I'm taking your clothes off, and you have to run and bring this and throw it in this tar pit, right? Weird. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense, why he would set this up like this.
Well, yeah, because
is he a Saw villain or something?
It was a plot point that he.
Well, it's a main plot point that her name is Fragile.
Which
That's
is
the whole
so
point
stupid,
of this.
yeah.
So, as she decides, because he basically gives her a choice. He said, "You could lay right here. I'll let you go, but I'm taking this bomb in and blowing up whatever city." She said, "Or I'm taking off your clothes and you're running this bomb into the tar pit, without any clothes on." So he's sacrifice your body or your people or whatever he says. And she looks at him and she's like, I'll do it. And he's like, oh yeah, whatever. And she goes, 'cause I may be fragile, but I'm not that fragile. And then it's a serious scene, and she goes running, and it's slow motion again. And for some reason, the camera's looking at her butt the whole time.
Because
and that was that scene. She saved the people and became old, except for on her face, because Kojima likes to look at her face.
In a past life, I did some screenwriting, and I was bad at it. But he makes me feel a little better about myself sometimes.
He's pretty bad. He's pretty bad, Chubb.
But that's the issue, right? I mean, it's a plot point, and that's why but it's such a stupid plot point that he gives such gravity to these stupid things.
Correct.
That he thinks is just.
If he was self-aware, his writing would be a lot better. But he has zero self-awareness. He's like the very attractive girl that nobody will tell her that she's doing bad things because they like her and don't want to make her feel bad. So then she becomes a monster because nobody ever told her that she shouldn't talk to people like that. You know what I'm saying? That's him. No one wants to tell him that he's a bad writer, but he's been a bad writer
He
forever.
probably was so excited to put that Mario shit in there.
Oh,
He probably wrote, people are going to love this. I'm talking about Mario.
Ridiculous. So we'll talk also the Monster Energy stuff and the Norman Reedus ride show where every time you take a poop, it like covers the bathroom stall and it gives you this advertisement for AMC's ride.
I don't get it.
I'll also mention, this is literally just bullet points of things I thought was noteworthy. On my actual birthday in real life, Mads Mikkelsen, there was a Mads cutscene, and he brought me flowers. And he, you know those BB cutscenes where he's talking to the BB? He goes, BB, do you know what day it is today? And he goes, no, not mommy's birthday. And he goes, no, not your birthday. And then he picks up, so you always see it through like the yellow screen of the BB. He like grabs what, I guess there's a camera sitting there, grabs it, and he goes and he turns into like a regular camera. It's not yellow anymore. And he like walks to the other side of the room and he goes, you thought I forgot? And he has flowers. He's like, happy birthday to the camera. And he's wishing me personally a happy birthday. And it is the weirdest fucking thing I could ever imagine.
I'm going to have to wait a year to experience it. God damn it.
They also bake you a cake in your room, like your little shelter thing. And you blow out the candles.
Like, that stuff's awesome. That stuff's really cool.
That's what I'm saying. I like that shit. It's super weird, but in a good way.
Yeah.
This is the
fragile
knife's edge.
stuff,
This is the knife's edge that he walks. What else do we have? Oh, the whole mama thing. Have you like met Mama in person yet or not?
I haven't met her in person, but I get like.
So this girl's name is Mama.
I saw the trailer.
You don't really know why. Eventually, you meet her in person.
Mm-hmm.
She has, and this is again a perfect example of an interesting idea that is done poorly. She has a child that died during childbirth, but she's still alive. So she has a BT child, because later in the game there are like baby BTs too.
Yeah.
So it literally has like a BT, a fuzzy umbilical cord to her, and the BT child is like floating above her. I think that's actually a pretty cool idea. The problem is her name is Mama, and Kojima loves having her talk about her breasts. So she'll like all of a sudden, like mid conversation, like start grabbing her boobs and be like, oh, sorry, the milk's coming in.
It's so stupid.
And it's like, why? Like, why? Really, I want to know why.
So I watched to prepare for.
You did watch some of that?
I watched a bunch of stuff on Death Stranding. It's not just once.
Yeah.
It's like 17
times.
times.
It's a lot.
Goes,
yeah.
Did none of these actors go, yo?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't get it.
And it's great
Dude,
actors too.
Can I improvise?
I don't get it.
You got great actors.
And they love him. I don't get it.
But they had like 17 times.
Yeah. It's so
It's just like,
weird.
what the fuck?
It is so
I don't
weird.
understand this
It's
shit.
very creepy. And there are other things with that character that I like. There are other things, she has, it's very weird, but again, a good weird in my opinion. She has another, like a twin sister named Lochna, but it ends up that they're the same person. They're just like split, and it's really weird, but it's good. I like that. When you fight Higgs in the final boss battle, there are fighting game health bars that pop up, and it's a close-up, literally fighting games, and it says Higgs and Sam, and you're like close together, and you're just like, boom, like leaning into it, punching him in the face, and then he's leaning into it, punching you, and it's like this big drawn-out like fist fight, very reminiscent of the end of Metal Gear 4. I know you haven't played it, Dan, yet, but it was ridiculous, and I fucking love that shit. I love that. It was so weird, and it was amazing. There's a scene, and Dan, if you have seen this scene, you can try to help me a little bit. But I think it was Fragile, walks up during like a big cutscene dump, walks up and goes, "I brought you a metaphor," and hands you like a package. And it was like so emblematic of that he just doesn't understand what's going on. Like, is he making fun of himself for like being very blunt about his metaphors? It is so weird. The line is literally, "I brought you a metaphor," and it was like, it might have been like an object that means something. I don't remember what it was. I just remember that line, "I brought you a metaphor." I was like, what the fuck? I already mentioned before so did I mention this on the podcast or no?
What's that?
The Princess Peach thing?
No.
We were just laughing.
We were doing it on the side? Okay. So this is how the line goes. So you're talking to Amelie. This is near the end of the game. And she's explaining that you didn't actually have to cross the country and connect the UCA or whatever. She just did it so that she could get you to her. And he looks at her and he goes, "So what? I'm fucking Super Mario and you're Princess Peach?" And then they like go on a little tangent. And then there's a gunshot and she's like, "All right, Sam, we gotta go. We gotta go." And he's like, "We gotta go? What? We're running?" And the camera zooms in on her face and she goes, "Yeah, 'cause you're Mario and I'm Princess Peach." And
that angers me so much.
To God,
I'm out.
I thought I had died for a minute. I was like falling so deeply into my chair that I like thought I had ceased to exist. In general, in the game, the boss fights are really bad. They're always with a big BT monster that you have to shoot a lot, and the shooting in the game is not its strong suit. For some reason, Higgs, as a main character, he loves making video game references. So he's always like, "That's game over," and like all the time. Or he'll be like, "Do you have another life?" Like, it's very weird, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why he would do that as a character. I also don't know what his motivations are at all. Like, they don't...
He's super not fleshed out at all.
But like, you don't understand. Like, he wants to bomb these cities, but you have no idea why.
Yeah.
They don't tell you why. He doesn't have any clear motivation at all. The Mads Mikkelsen cutscenes with BB are like some of the best stuff in the game, but for some reason they allow repeat cutscenes of those. So like, even before you've seen them all, you'll come, because whenever you come up from an elevator on the shelter, it usually gives you a BB cutscene. So instead of just not giving you a cutscene, they'll give you a repeat random cutscene, and I got it a bunch, and it sucked.
I gotta say, Cliff is the best character, though.
Yeah, Cliff is Mads' character. He's awesome, and he's. I mean, the acting in general is very good, except for Norman Reedus isn't very good. But I don't know if that's a Norman Reedus thing or if because he's the main character, he doesn't talk that much or whatever. But he's the best character for sure, and I like his ending. This all sounds negative so far, but I'll get to why it's so positive for me, and it actually does have a lot to do with the story overall. What I will say is the big quote unquote twists, like of Amelie is really your mom, but the beach version, like she's tethered there, so your mom died, but Amelie's still, she can only be seen in the beach. Not a twist. I don't know why they thought that was going to be a big twist or something. Like we kind of all could see that coming a mile away.
It
like
looked exactly the same in the beginning.
Yeah, but as the game goes on, even like Deadman will like say like, have you ever seen Amelie in person? Like, it's like really bad. I don't know why they think it's a twist, but they really want you to think it's a twist. The same thing where it's like, the twist of, like, you know, the end of the world is coming and we're just holding on, like, to try to survive, and when we really shouldn't. Like, no shit. Like, I don't know why that's supposed to be a revelation at the end of the game. But overall, the game itself, I love the idea of it and the minute-to-minute like movement and traversal and interacting with other people. The fact that if you walk the same path as a bunch of other people, the ground starts to get deteriorated and form a pathway. It'll even go through rocks. So, like, if a bunch of people climb over a rock at the same point, it'll like break through the rock. Really fucking cool. When you get to chapter 3, like Dan's in, and you like put resources into auto paver to build roads.
Oh yeah, it's so much easier to maneuver.
But it's so much like, I really enjoy that process of like cooperatively. Like, all of a sudden I'll be like, damn, I don't have enough resources, and I'll go do something else, and be like, oh, that paver has been completed. This person contributed resources. Now you have a road that allows you to get somewhere that, you know, a lot easier. I fucking love that shit. That shit is awesome.
Great ideas for sure.
And the story I ended up being positive on the story in the end, because as a whole, I liked what they were going for, and I liked the way it wrapped up as you with Cliff and the BB. That whole thing, so the BB you named Lou, and you were like walking around with it. The whole thing where they switch back and show Cliff's story and how he took the BB out of the thing right before he got killed and whatever. And then you at the end take the BB out, and, you know, you discover like that you were Cliff's BB. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like, again, another twist that wasn't really a twist at all. Like, obviously you have a weird attachment, and he's coming after you all the time, and he's always grabbing your face at the end and stuff. And it's like, clearly that's what's going on. But I really I felt like a lot of the emotional strings they were pulling at were actually good, and they ended up paying off for me. When you talk about, like, it's a mess of a game, complete mess. Like, I cannot, like, just be like, oh, this game's fantastic, you should play it. It's a mess. I end up, the good parts of it shine so much higher than the bad parts for me personally. So for me, Death Stranding is a top 10 game this year, no doubt. Like, it will definitely be on mine. I loved it. I think it was great. I have a lot of criticisms about it. This is not a game I can say is my game of the year because I have way too much baggage. But it's a game that I think I will look back on for years to come and say, like, I really love that game, despite its drawbacks. And that's why it's, for me, I'm like, I want a game that makes me feel something, and not a game, and I'm not going to forget it. We talk a lot. Me and Dan have been talking also about, like, the Spider-Man game last year, maybe the Star Wars game this year. Games that are fun and really good, but you don't look back on them with any sort of reverence, because you're like, hey, I really love that, and at the time that I played it, but you don't have any emotional attachment to it. You don't have any lingering thoughts about it. And a game that leaves you with nothing, no like solid memories, I think is not a great game in the long term. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I argue for Death Stranding to be one of the top 10 games this year, because this is a lingering game that is going to stay with me, and I have enough good experiences with it and good memories of it that I personally am like, oh, I really like that game. Like, I'm going to say that for a while, be like, Death Stranding's a great game. There's a ton of problems. You want to talk about the problems? I'll talk all day about the problems. I really, really like that game. Yeah, and that's pretty much, I mean, I said a lot there.
That's pretty solid, yeah, I think.
But I really genuinely like it a lot. And there are too many cutscenes at the end, back to back to back, definitely. and not all the threads pay off. In fact, most of them don't. But as a whole, when it wanted to pull the emotional strings, it did it well. And the threads that it did pay off on, I really liked. So it comes out positive for me. But again, this is our list. This isn't my list. It will be on my list. So if we decide as a group that Death Stranding should not be in the top 10, that's fine. I truly think it's a top 10 game this year for sure.
Cool.
Holy moly.
No, it's good to know.
Too much? I'm sorry.
No. I think
Listen, this is a game we haven't really talked about yet, too much.
I think, because
it's a game that needs to be talked about. It came out late in the year, and with how expansive it is, good to know that it has these certain elements, because I'm not that far into it,
I also will say I often say that frustrating parts in games for other people are often not frustrating to me. I don't know if I have more patience or if I have if I'm just good at it sometimes and it just works out for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are very frustrated with the shooting in this game.
Haven't even gotten to it.
I have never had a problem. Like every Mads fight, every boss I come over, every BT that, drags you through the mud and then you have to fight them, I destroy them pretty easily. So it doesn't feel like that much of a hindrance. And I think probably the most positive thing I could say about the game is the threat of the BTs may seem like they take away from something, but I think they're so effective when you're in that, and you're really nervous and looking around, it does it really well.
Oh yeah,
and
when the arm comes up.
Yeah, and I think that all makes it worth it for the annoyances of this BT area when I'm going through. It makes it interesting though. If there was nothing there,
right? If you're just in a sprawl and you're just
why
going
are you
from
doing
point A to point B.
So I actually enjoyed that in the end. I know a lot of people, that's their main complaint about it. I'll also say the sound design, not the music, but the sound design, all the little beeps and boops, and is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. All the little jingles when people call you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I love the art direction for the most part. I think a lot of the sci-fi looking things are really cool. I like the design of the vehicles. There's a lot to love about the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot to dislike about the game. But that's my piece. I'm done talking about Death Stranding for the year.
I think you hit. No, I think
I made my quota.
Everything on the head, and everything that you're saying, I totally stand by. I don't know. It all comes down to my feeling. I still feel just as probably divided as other, and I feel like I feel like I give it more props than I don't give it props. But the props that the detractions are just so bad and things that I hate so much in storytelling in games that I'm just right now I'm having a hard time really saying all right, let's just make sure it's in there. You know what I mean? It's just there's enough I like about it, but stuff that I really, really don't like and really bother me that I'm just I feel like I can't, hype this game up
right
at this juncture.
Cool.
So we talked about Death Stranding.
Death Stranding.
I'm not far enough into it whatsoever to give a put together.
What I would say is, why don't we talk about the games we haven't talked about? We'll talk about Resident Evil and Star Wars.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then we need to cut 2 of them.
Okay.
I got in a zone there.
That was awesome.
I zone I forgot where I was.
It was great.
I was in a fugue state.
But that was awesome though, and I think it's we need to talk about it, and that eloquently described the highs and lows of Death Stranding perfectly.
Thanks. So what I'm saying is we got to cut 2 here. So if let's talk about Resident Evil, let's talk about Star Wars, and then let's get a collective decision. What are the 2 that we're gonna cut?
So are those? Yeah. So Death
those are the only 2 we haven't
and
talked about that aren't bolded that we're gonna talk about later.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, I think we can all agree the bolded ones ended up being real bolded, and they are gonna make it. You know what I mean?
For sure.
There's no even reason to discuss them yet. So the ones that are up for cutting right now: Resident Evil 2, Ape Out, Observation, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Death Stranding, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Let's talk Star Wars since we all played that. We all beat it. Is that right?
So I did not beat it, but I made sure I
saw what
I got up
what
to.
happened. Just
I know how it ends.
All right. So what are our feelings? We'll give my throat a break for 5 minutes.
I think what you said about Spider-Man is very true. I had so much fun playing Star Wars, and I will continue to play more Star Wars, even though I know how it ends, which I think is such a prop to the game, in that I know how the story goes, but I'm having such a fun time playing it that I just want to keep playing it, and I could just play it for years to come.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun game. What do you think, Shelb?
I agree. I really like this game a lot. Yeah. It's going to end up being the last game I play for 2019, and I just finished it. And I don't know exactly what it is about it. You know, that kind of Soulsborne game is new to me this year. Sekiro was the first one that I played, first FromSoft game that I played. Then I played Surge, then not that it's the same, but it has that vein of and I really liked what they did with it. I just like being thrust into that world of Star Wars, obviously. So that level of it, I think, amplifies it a little bit. I don't think the gameplay, or I don't think the combat was as strong as maybe some other games that it's trying to replicate.
Agreed.
But it's still very good. I think its set pieces are just like, how many times have you watched a Star Wars movie and you're like, whoa, that's so cool. And they nail that every time, you know, like you go to a new world and you're like, wow, that's incredible. You climb up a vine. Wow, that's incredible. You know, like you see these giant eagle bird things. Wow, that's incredible, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely on my top 10 list.
Yeah. My argument against Star Wars is that it doesn't do anything that it's trying to do better than the game that it's aping.
Yeah.
It doesn't. No. Like, the combat is not as precise.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you get, you're trying to block and you get caught, doing, you hit it too early or too late or whatever. It just doesn't feel very precise. The unchartedness of it, when it nails, it nails. Yeah. But there's only a few real set piece moments that are that, like,
the only thing that I think that it really changes up a little bit is that it's Star Wars and you get to use the Force a little bit. Other than that, it's just like you said, like it's Uncharted, it's FromSoft, it's got those things, and it's trying to pull on the whole, hey, we're Star Wars, come play this,
And it adds
EA's apology note.
It's a good game.
I think it adds to the lore pretty well too. It's not like I'm like
it is
like,
canon.
Oh, why would they?
And it's good.
Yeah, it's good canon.
But it's good.
Yeah.
It's such a good game.
Yeah, it's a really good game.
Yeah. But you know what? I felt the same way about Spider-Man, and Spider-Man ended up on our list if I remember correctly. Like Spider-Man, I just had so much fun with. It was so cool to be in the world. It was so cool to, and I think Star Wars had that same.
Do you think 2018 is the same year?
No,
quality wise, I'm saying.
Maybe not. Maybe not. But I'm just saying that in the way that Star Wars, I'm just like, I just had so much fun with it. Star Wars is the reason I put down Death Stranding for a while, because I was just like, this is so much fun. I'm enjoying, the crap out of this game. And like I said, for me to even, I know how the game ends, I still want to go home and play it myself because I just had so much fun with it.
And I love that I think I mentioned this on another podcast, but I love that they do prequel stuff, but well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not trying to do too much. When you have the flashbacks, there's a little Padawan with the little fucking rat tail.
Yep.
It's like that's cool, and you're not, like, throwing it at us, like, trying to, we understand that the prequels are not great, but there's interesting lore to be done there. Like, what is it? Clone Wars or whatever.
You talk about the Clone Wars
all
a
the
lot.
time, yeah.
You go to a planet, I forget the name of it, Dathomir, whatever it is.
Dathomir, yeah.
Which is, like, that's where Darth Maul is from,
right,
like, that's his people, like, you see, and then
and that's where you get your your double
which
lightsaber.
is the coolest.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the thing that I would say, this is the quintessential game of what I mentioned when we were talking about Death Stranding, and I was trying to articulate that I have a very strong feelings towards Death Stranding, both good and bad. Is like, this is the quintessential game that I will look back on and be like, oh man, that was fun.
Right.
And that's it. For me.
Yeah.
I know for a lot of people, this could be like, oh, this is one of my favorite games. I love this game. For me, it's like, that was a great game.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I had fun.
Yeah. That doesn't mean it's not going to make the top 10, but when we're looking at the rest of these, we need to start looking at, all right, what are we valuing over other things? Resident Evil 2 is the last one we hadn't talked about. Just a superbly crafted game. I know we talked about it a little bit in Best Game Design, where the layout of that police station, and I know this is a remake, obviously, but it is just like
that area is just
so perfect. So many good little scares, so many places for Mr. X to pop out of. When you're in that main area of the police station and you think that you're in a safe room because there's a save thing there, but Mr. X can just walk in, you're like, what the fuck? It's crazy. I love this game. I think it's definitely one of the 10 best games of the year. But if you guys don't feel as strongly about it,
I think, like you said, it has, or we mentioned in an early episode, it has that Resident Evil 7 thing where that police station is just so strong and just so good.
And then the rest of it
and then it kind of Yeah. But having said that, I mean, that police station, and we talked about Mr. X and you know, the moments associated with that. I think Resident Evil 2 is a better game than Star Wars.
I definitely think so.
Having said that, I enjoy Star Wars more, but only because Resident Evil 2 scared me, and Star Wars didn't scare me that much.
That's pretty funny. Listen, when it comes down to it, we need to get rid of 2 games. If we feel better about bolding games that we think are going to stay to try to narrow this down, we can start doing that. Or if there's something that we think we can cut right now, we can cut.
I'm surprised that, and I love Sayonara Wild Hearts, I'm surprised that's that high.
It's just such a good, fun, nice experience. Like, I love that game. It is so memorable as like a music meets, like, I love that game.
So is Star Wars.
I mean, I don't feel the same way about them.
Oh, okay.
I had a much more emotional attachment to Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Well, me too, actually. Specifically music-wise.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what that means.
You think Sayonara Wild Hearts should be the one to go right now?
I don't know. No, I don't want to keep... What do you think, Shub?
What do you mean keep? I asked you.
Listen, we have 2 before we get to the top 10.
You got 2.
I know which 2 I would cut.
Let's hear it.
Ape Out and Sayonara would be the 2 I cut off this list.
Okay.
Personally. But I know that there's others. Like, obviously, Star Wars is flirting with being cut right now.
How about you, Dan? What would your 2 be?
I would cut Observation and Star Wars.
I would cut Death Stranding in Star Wars.
Pretty split.
This is where
Pretty split.
This is where
Pretty split.
Friendships end.
Do you think that it sounds like nobody wants to cut Fire Emblem.
I love Fire Emblem so much.
I think we're bolding Fire Emblem. You know what it is? In the back of my head, like, I keep thinking about how frustrated I was with Observation. Like, I know I love the story that you told me about the game, and I mean, now's your chance if you want to talk about the ending.
It's just like, and I get it. I just didn't run into that problem. Yeah. That was the only thing.
It's so funny. That's
so,
what
like,
stopped
when you
me
guys
from
are
playing
like,
it too.
this frustration, like, and when you said the part, I remember the part. I
had no issue.
I ran right in.
That's
like,
amazing.
I figured it out right away. It wasn't a figuring out. I think I was just in the right place at the right time. And
I love
happened
that,
to.
It made it to the point of where once I got done with it, and I just had to do the normal gameplay.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it did. It like flipped on it for me.
I had the same exact
because I was
experience.
really enjoying the story. Like, loved the beginning. Like, was in. I was all in.
Yeah.
And I was very frustrated by that part. But what you've told me sounds very exciting. Do you want to go through and tell us, like, spoil it for us?
I mean, going through the
if you want to make the pitch,
it kind of sounds like. I mean, I talked about
what you talked about the second station
on our moments list, which
Yeah.
probably kind of like once you figure that stuff out, it kind of rolls into.
But do you feel that it ends well?
I really like the ending.
The actual
there was nothing crazy about the ending that was like it led up to it, and you're like, oh wow, this is super cool. You know, like I wouldn't say it was a twist or anything like that because it kind of leads up to it in the second half of the game.
Yeah, the whole point was you're supposed to bring Sam there, right? So what happens?
And when you bring Sam there, you guys kind of crash land onto the planet, and you wake up, and there's just she actually gets up, which doesn't always happen. They're pulling all the multiple universes together. And when you wake up, there's a dead Sam lying on the floor. And she steps over that dead Sam. There's another dead Sam in the corner over here, and you're stepping on your client. Like, they're pulling all these Sams trying to collect them, and they don't always survive. So you're walking over the corpses of all these other Sams that brought her to this planet, and then it kind of opens up, and you see it's like it's so 2001. It's not even funny. It's like these big black
obelisks.
Monoliths.
You know, and you're sitting there, and then it pulls away from the planet a little bit, and she's kind of like just brought up towards it along with others that you could see in the background, and you zoom out, and it's like station, and it's all being brought to this one place. And it was just, I don't
and they
think
leave it like that. Like
they
that's
leave
the
it like
ending?
that, but it's just
like you don't really know why.
It has this such a mysterious thing to it, but the cinematic way that they do it is what great. And I was like, I remember like my controller was at my side as I'm like staring at the screen. Like it doesn't sound so impactful now that I'm like thinking about it, but I remember watching it. Like I want
a bold observation.
Like,
Would
that
you be
sounds
for that?
awesome.
Would you be for bolding
it was
observation?
So cool.
A what?
I said, would you be?
Yeah,
for
that sounds
bolding
amazing.
observation?
And I'm just sad that I didn't.
And I'm telling you, like going through the second station was so much cooler because like with all these people that pop back up, like that one dead guy, obviously alive this time, and then there's a third guy that Emma kind of had like a thing with, and he like pops up and like grabs you at one point, and, like grabs you into a hallway and like starts trying to fuck with you. It's cool. I really like the game a lot.
Sounds great.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah, it sounds really good. All right. Well, observation made the top 10. So now we just have 5 games. We got to cut 2. It's Resident Evil 2, Ape Out, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Death Stranding, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
All right. Well, it sounds like Star Wars is on the chopping block. Both of you guys took it off your top 10 list here. And
Star Wars would be the first to cut for me on that out of those 5.
And as a collective whole, I'm not okay with it, but yeah, I could see it going.
Fight for it.
I have, and I think it's on the chopping block. I'm fine with that because I'm gonna give it love in my personal top 10.
There you
so
go.
I'm fine with
there
that.
You go.
All right, let's delete Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. You want to do the honors for him? Then
I will do that. You got it.
I'll do it for you, Shep, so you don't have
Yeah, you do it.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I was trying to say. And then we have Resident Evil 2, Ape Out, Sayonara Wild Hearts, and Death Stranding. One game's got to go. One game. Shelby says Ape Out.
Shelby says Ape Out. What do you say, Dan?
Out of these 4, you know, for me, it's between Ape Out and Sayonara Wild Hearts. I could see either of them.
Wow.
And you would say Death Stranding.
I would say Death Stranding.
So it sounds like Resident Evil's going bold.
No, I was going to say going. I was
like, wait a second. That's not what we were saying. 1, 2, 3.
Ape Out.
It's boldly going.
Sayonara.
Where no game has gone before.
Ape Out. The way that you feel about Sayonara Wild Hearts, I feel that way about Ape Out.
What, me?
Yeah, just like I just love Ape Out.
You know what? Here's the thing for me. Ape Out and Sayonara Wild Hearts, neither of them are on my top 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Listen, those were the 2 I said I would chop before. Between them, I had more fun playing Ape Out. I enjoyed playing Ape Out more. You know,
Yeah.
like they're both really incredible games.
Also, I understand the importance of maybe having Death Stranding on the top 10.
Sayonara Wild Hearts just
Well, there's no importance.
easy to me.
There's no importance. If we don't think that that's worthy of being on the top 10, then that's...
But, like, having it on there, it just makes... I understand. It would make me... I don't know.
Well, I think my argument for it was pretty impassioned.
Yeah.
You inspired me, Dan. And I don't feel that passionate about either Ape Out or Sayonara Wild Hearts. So...
Which one, if you had to pick one? You said Sayonara Wild Hearts you would get rid of?
Yes.
Over Ape Out?
Yes, but, you know, I don't know if that's the right decision.
I've been trying to do that 20 games ago.
Yeah.
Well, get rid of
Shelby
what?
does want to do Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Oh, I felt I was the one that was chopping
You did try to chop it. I saved it.
So it's up, Dan. I think. What's going, bud? Sayonara or Ape Out or Death Stranding? What do you like better out of Ape Out or Sayonara?
I think I like Ape Out better than Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Do you like Death Stranding more than Sayonara Wild Hearts?
Yes.
What do you say, Shob?
I'm all in on that.
Is this what we're doing?
Cutting Sayonara Wild Hearts?
Yep.
That sounded like a scissor. He cut it. All right. We have our 10, guys.
Jeez. Now I feel bad for Sayonara Wild Hearts because that was such a nice game.
Well, you blew it.
And the soundtrack was amazing.
All right. Now it's going to get a little funky because, Shelb, I don't know if you want you could type from there. But as we order them, I'm going to need you to delete and put them somewhere else.
Yep.
I know it's annoying.
No, let's do it.
So I assume Death Stranding should be number 10.
Death Stranding or Ape Out seems like they were the bottom
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. I would assume.
What do you
that.
say, Shelby?
Concur.
Would you prefer Ape Out at 10 or Death Stranding at 10?
Death Stranding because I haven't played enough of it, and like I said, I really enjoyed playing Ape Out a lot.
Dan, how do you feel about Death Stranding at the 10 spot?
I am happy it made it to the list.
Wow. You're just a Kojima fanboy.
I am not.
Is all.
All right. So that's our 9 and 10 right now. What do we think is also in that lower tier?
Seems like
Just because I'm incredibly happy it made it, I wouldn't mind
Observation.
putting Observation.
I think
down there.
Observation and Resident Evil
that's what I was going to
seem
say.
like they might be down there. I would like to see Resident Evil at. I think Shelby made a strong enough argument for Observation that I'd like to see Observation at 7 and Resident
That's
Evil at 8.
exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
And I think
I'm happy
Observation
with
at
that.
7 sounds really good to me.
It just feels right.
It feels right.
It's a good game, guys.
Feels like melted butter
Melted butter.
right down the throat.
Oh, gross. All right.
Yeah, that came out kind of weird.
Yeah, pretty weird.
Listen, we've been recording for like 13 hours.
Yeah, it's a long day. All right. So right now we have Observation at 7, Resident Evil 2 at 8, Ape Out at 9, and Death Stranding at 10. The remaining ones are Baba Is You, Sekiro, Outer Wilds, Fire Emblem, Control, and Disco Elysium. So basically we're going to break this down to 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So what do you
Easier
think?
said than done.
What do you think is a 4, 5, 6 game?
I don't see Fire Emblem taking over Sekiro, Outer Wilds, Control, or Disco Elysium.
Okay.
I feel Fire Emblem and Baba Is You.
Are like a 6, 5?
Yeah.
I could get on board with that.
Yeah?
Fire Emblem 6.
Yeah, I would say Baba Is You should be above.
Yeah. I'm not writing out 3 houses.
That's fine.
But how will I know which Fire Emblem game it is, Shelby?
All right.
Oh, love to see Bob Izzy up there.
Yeah, Baba Is a fantastic game.
I'm really happy that Bob is there too.
All right, we have some top games here. We talked a lot about the games that are already ranked. We did not talk about Sekiro, Outer Wilds, Control, and Disco Elysium.
And what's so funny is because we're doing so much recording, I feel like we've talked about these games so much
So much,
today.
yeah, right.
But really, we've
But, like,
talked about them in regards to other things.
Not in this episode.
Yeah.
Okay. This
So-
is super tough. What do you think?
Yeah, let's just like dig into one of these games. How about that? Let's dig into Control. Let's talk good.
Okay.
Let's talk bad. Okay. I played Control on PC. I had 0 bugs, frame rate issues, crashes, 0. It was fantastic. It ran great.
And I feel like the guy that stands next to Justin Long in that commercial.
Same. Yes.
So you guys had a lot of technical issues on Control. The game itself, I love.
It's a fantastic game.
I think the world they built, the whole idea of the bureau, the way the director gets killed right in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and you take the service weapon, the way everything is named, like the service weapon, like this game is so entirely my shit. I love it. I think it is so awesome.
Yeah. It has its own style. Nails that
Awesome style.
Yeah.
The fonts that
Right.
pop up whenever you enter a new room, it'll just pop up dead letters all across the board.
They created in this building, they created a world that is just so fascinating and so intriguing to me.
Yes.
And that's the pitch for this game, is that, yeah, maybe the moment-to-moment gameplay or combat can be tedious, but man, I did not care because I was just like, I want to know what this is. I want to know what this room is, what this area is. It's
so awesome.
It's impeccable.
Those letters everywhere, read everything because they're all amazing. The objects of power are so cool.
Super
so
cool.
interesting. The bit with the fridge was like amazing.
Oh my gosh, yeah, when you actually go into the
and you fight that giant
with the big
eyeball. I mean, this game is full of amazing moments.
And that was just a side quest. That was just
Yeah.
that you could have totally missed that.
The ashtray maze we talked about on Best Moments. Incredible moment. I love this game. I think it is so cool. I love its style. I love everything about it. It's awesome.
Absolutely agreed.
My issues, because I didn't have any technical issues, are if you're going to have mediocre combat, make your checkpoints better.
Yeah.
That's the number one. That statement is the number one thing complaint about this game, because a lot of the boss fights you would like die when the boss had like a sliver of health, and you had to make your whole way back from the most recent like little control point.
Oh yeah.
And it sucked, and it really brought down what could have been like,
I fought the anchor so many times and died so many times and had to run all the way back there. It was, that was one gripe, obviously, for us.
Technical
bugging
stuff,
issues aside, that makes an impact on ours, but without talking about that, because that's not everybody's playthrough. Like the checkpoints, mediocre combat, is it good? Yeah, it's very fluid. It's fun to play. Powers, abilities, stuff like that.
Yeah, those are cool.
Service weapon that you could change around a little bit, it was like a Star Wars having the Force kind of thing on its own. Great protagonist. It's a fantastic game,
my whole thing was, I'm sorry to cut you off, Sean.
No.
My whole thing was like, all that I care about and all that I remember is how much I liked everything about the story and the whole world that they built. Mm-hmm. That's what I'll take away from this game.
For sure.
Because I love it, and I really think it did a really awesome job doing all that. And I know I'm not dismissing any issues that it has. I just personally feel that stuff totally outweighs all the bad.
The story's fantastic. I wouldn't turn around and be like, oh, the combat was a reason that this game was as good as it was, because it's not. Like, if I'm being honest, the final fight towards the end is just like, it's like that my head against the
it's
wall,
pretty
like
generic.
that was. I was like, come on now,
Yeah.
So, but the fact that the story brings it through, is why it's sitting where it's sitting.
Yeah,
exactly.
For
sure.
like,
I mean, there were moments where I was like,
man,
like I kind of just want to give up, but like I don't want to because I want to know what happens, and that's what really, that intrigue is what pulled me through all those sort of janky moments and all those sort of frustrating combat moments.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just want to say quickly before we talk about the rest of these games, Fire Emblem stuff. We talked forever about how we play different houses, and we'll talk come Game of the Year time and spoil it, and we haven't talked anything about Fire Emblem. We're just like, oh, it's good. Six sounds
Here
good.
it goes. Yeah, you're right.
I don't want to let that slide by. Sorry to derail what's been going on.
That's fine.
But I loved my Black Eagles playthrough, and I made a mistake. Edelgard comes up to you at a certain point and asks your opinion on something. Turns out, if you answer a certain way, she ends up thinking that you're going to side with the church instead of her, and you end up having to fight her and having a really sad moment of killing her. And I was all for Edelgard. I was like, take down the church. They're like our overlords. We don't need them. We need to rebuild from the ground up. Like, I was all for the resistance. And somehow I ended up with the church.
She's
and
dead.
It was so upsetting.
You killed her.
And I was like, this is how many hours did I put in? 50? Yeah. I was like,
can't go back
I
now.
cannot do it again. And I didn't have a good save where I could load. I was like, fuck. So, and the problem is that thing happens, like Edelgard talks to you, and then like 4 hours later you fight her. So like I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't go back at that point. I already overwritten my save because it was 5 hours ago or whatever. So it was a tough one. But I love the Black Eagles playthrough. I like the characters a lot. Learning a lot about the characters and like seeing what happened in their past and stuff like that. I just wish I had seen it all the way through and been like by Edelgard's side when she took over. You have anything interesting or fun to talk about with the Blue Lions?
I gotta say, I don't think the Blue Lions were as interesting as the Black Eagles, but for the reasons I love like Mass Effect 2 is the same reasons I love this game. It's just like it's very heavy on getting to know everybody.
Big time.
In Hogwarts and running around and get to learn about these characters and recruit people. And for me, that was the really big selling point of this game.
And it does it really well.
It does it extraordinarily well.
Yeah.
And for me, that was it. And this story, the moment to moment story beats and the overarching story, it's a pretty regular fantasy RPG sort of thing. But for me, it was the characterizations, and I really, really enjoyed my time with it.
Nice.
And I still enjoy my time with it. And even knowing what happens,
Right.
there's so many different permutations that you can just replay this game.
Right.
I mean, it's 50 hours to play through, but you can,
Yeah, but it's one of those games that you could, like, especially since it's on the Switch, just bring with you everywhere. You could play this game for years.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And have different things happen and
Absolutely.
different characters.
And it's just like, play an hour here, hour
different
there,
teams. So,
yeah. So, I mean,
you have anything Golden
I
Deer
played the
wise?
Golden Deer. I think I haven't revisited it probably since the last time we talked about it, brought it up. I love the Golden Deer. We were just a band of misfits having some fun.
Just a rapscallion crew.
Oh, that's exactly what it was. If we're on a pirate ship with some parrots, I mean that's we'd be the shit.
But yeah, you enjoyed your time with it?
I'm somewhere between 5 and 10 hours. I really enjoyed the time that I had with it. Again, another game genre that I hadn't played too much, like that RPG element of love it. So much fun, that strategic element,
Absolutely.
Great.
All right, I just wanted to give it its due. I didn't want it to be overlooked.
Again, it's one of those things I feel like we've talked about it quite a bit today.
Definitely,
but not in this episode.
Correct. So. I will say, I'll talk a little bit about Disco Elysium. I know I talked in moments about some stuff. I'll just say, as a whole, this game does something really, really special with how it makes its gameplay about interacting with people. So it's completely conversational. There's no direct combat. And the fact that it manages to be a large, 30-plus hour RPG where there's no combat, it's just skill checks and dialogue, and it's an amazing experience is like a really impressive thing. Yeah. I am very interested in the isometric RPG genre. Like, I think there's going to be a before Disco Elysium and after Disco Elysium, like, because this is
That's huge.
This is a like very important game on the landscape of RPGs. Like, it's that good and well done and well written. Like, I cannot sing its praises enough. This is a game that any other year would be my game of the year. Absolutely. So, I'm happy to see it this high up on the list, for sure. And then let's talk about Sekiro. We all played it. We all finished it. Shelby played on Shelby Dies Twice.
Yeah.
And kicked everyone's ass. made a joke out of these bosses.
Some of them.
So talk about your experience with Sekiro, maybe your favorite moments and what you love about it.
I loved Sekiro. First experience with FromSoft game. I had a blast. Got my ass kicked. Did some ass kicking. Like I think
that's the usual.
Like the world that they built there is just absolutely incredible. Running up on bosses right from the start of the game, and never knowing what to expect. You might run up on a boss and see something you hadn't seen before. You could be like, "Oh, this is a little mini boss," and you're like, "Nope, I'm going to be here for a while."
Yeah.
I remember having such a we're laughing saying like, "Oh, may have done well with some bosses comparatively," but the very first time I like the ogre, he threw me so many times and whooped my ass, and I was just like, I had never played one of these games, so I was just getting my ass whooped in the beginning.
It's a good learning experience.
Oh yeah. Just like chucking me off the cliff and everything, whooping my ass. But I think the story that it told, all the different kind of fantasy things that you could do, these items you're collecting, not really hitting it on the nose saying like, hey, use this to do this, but figuring stuff like that out.
That's a big FromSoft thing.
Yeah, like that.
Reading item descriptions.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, so how you were saying how like you never played a game like this before, like a Souls game or something like that. For me, and this is why I love Sekiro. If I could pinpoint one thing about it, is I came off playing Bloodborne. Bloodborne is one of my all-time favorite games ever. And I was super cocky. I just got the DLC and beat Orphan of Kaz, and I'm just like, man, if I could beat Orphan of Kaz, I can do anything. Is perfect. So I got Sekiro, and I was playing it like a Bloodborne game, and I was just having the most miserable time because I was just dying, being like I was like, well, this isn't what I.
Because it wasn't a dodge game.
I'm good at these games.
It's not a dodge game.
No, that's exactly what it was, though. I was like, I'm good at this. I'm really good at this. And I can't do this. So I was really frustrated that night. It came out March 22nd. I'll never forget. It was a Friday night. And I remember I was home alone. I had a pizza next to me. And I was like, no. Like, why is this so hard? So I went to bed. And I woke up the next day. And I'm just like, all right. I'm just going to like take everything I know about Bloodborne and just and learn Sekiro and just play it for the way that it is. And then once I did that and took a step back and like learned the nuances of Sekiro and played Sekiro how you're supposed to play Sekiro, and I learned it, that's when it became enjoyable to me, because then I was playing a new game and I learned how to maneuver it, and that's my pitch for these games. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, they're all different, but like if you take the time to learn them, there's no leveling up, there's leveling up, but it's not about that. It's you learn, you gain skill. And to me that's the most rewarding aspect of it, is that the enemies don't change. The enemies have the same movement patterns, they do the same things. It's just you learn how to expose them and you learn how to expose their weakness. And that by the end of the game, I was just breezing through it. Even some of the hardest enemies, I was just breezing through because I was like, oh, I know how to do this enemy, or I've seen someone with a spear, I know how to maneuver this. And to me that's such a cool feeling where you get better because you're learning. It's really, for a game where it's combat and you're using your hands with a remote, it's really all intellectual and it's all in your mind, just like, this is how I do it.
Thank you. Making me feel smarter.
Keeping your composure under pressure. And
listen, I'm surprised Dan didn't want to beat me with a bat the amount of times he had to tell me to block and not dodge. Like that's all. Every enemy I'd go to, I'd just start dodging again. He'd be like, just block.
Dude, you killed it, man. For that to be your first,
was fantastic.
Man, you killed it.
I'll take the praise.
But
listen, it was like I saw all the Dark Souls stuff, and then you add some like Spider-Man swinging into it. Sure, I'm in.
But that's what it is for me. These games and this one in particular, because I had that experience where I was like, oh yeah, I know how to play Souls games, and then to have to relearn and retrain myself, and then I see myself getting better because the enemies don't change. They're the same enemies. You just have to be better, and to me that is just such a rewarding experience.
So good. Yeah, for me, someone that's played every Souls game and knows these games in and out, it's a similar vocabulary, right? But it's a new learning experience. So once you learn that, now it's like Christmas morning where you're like, let me see which boss is next because I want to see what kind of interesting things they're going to throw at me so that I can then do it. Like there's no better feeling than that of like a good version of a game that and then just being like, oh, what's next, and constantly being surprised. Like this game has such great boss designs. I know they reuse a few bosses, but I don't mind that at all. I think the way that they did the mini boss system in this for the first time, I really liked a lot. But yeah, when you're fighting a lot of these major bosses are just so much fun to fight against because you're learning such a new thing every time. And again, I mean, we talked before. I think this is an absolutely beautiful game. The score is incredible. Cinematically, they do things that no From Software game has done. They just nailed it. They nailed it. This is an excellent game, and I'm super happy with what they've done for sure. Last game we have to talk about, and then we'll try to rank these 4. Outer Wilds. It's pretty good.
Oh, that's just like your opinion, man. No, yeah, this game's all right.
It's pretty good. Outer Wilds is one of my favorite games ever. It's just a beautiful experience of like exploring, like true exploring.
Yeah.
And discovery of things that you never expect, and to be hit that many times with shocking revelations between just visually seeing something or reading something that the Nomai wrote, time after time after time, it was like, what? Whoa, like crazy over and over again. And that sense of wonder is like unrivaled in games, and I really have not experienced anything like it. It's just, for me, it's just a masterpiece. I mean, the music, the character of these people, seeing how the different Nomai have different personalities that are writing. The children, they have like scriggly writing because they're kids. Like every little detail these people considered, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is the best game of the year.
There's no doubt in my mind that this is maybe top 5 games of all time.
Yeah.
There's been very few gaming experiences that like I can, I don't even remember a podcast you said this in because we've done so many today, but when you said, games that leave you with food for thought, things that you take away and that you can look back on and still dive into. This game has this in spades. I mean, since our show ended, I don't remember when that was. That was sometime in the summer. I really haven't stopped thinking about this game. I think about this game, several times a week, and I just think of what it was trying to say and what it was trying to do, and just this whole, this whole existential feeling of having a timer, on everything that you're doing, and how everything is, impermanent, but then also trying to find the permanence in the impermanence, and how, we're all interconnected. I think it just speaks to not only just a game, but like as a world, as as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a game to, on the surface, kind of be silly and charming, but yet also have this real root, this real heart, at the center of it that speaks to, to us as human beings. I mean, I can't rave about this game enough, because for a game to take risks like this and then to deliver so well, it really leaves me speechless. I can't say enough about it.
It's amazing.
Game's good. Game's
You,
good.
you think it's the best game of the year, Shelby?
I think it's our best game of the year.
Yeah, I think so too.
The
now,
Outer Wilds
now we
is
need.
just- I'm telling you, like we made a moment's superlative, and to sit there and say, like, there are moments in this game where you may just stumble upon something by accident.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
first
that could
time
be
I went,
the best moment of your
and
year.
crazy.
Yeah.
2 moments I know in particular. Which planet is the one with the hurricanes on it?
Giant Steep.
Giant Steep. The very first time I went to Giant Steep, landed in the giant hurricane with the tower. No idea. I thought that was the planet. I had no idea. Just happened to go in through the large hurricane.
Oh, the one that got you down?
No, not the one that got.
Okay.
If you go in through the largest hurricane, there's the tower in the middle of it.
Yeah,
But if
there's a tower that's constantly in the big one,
and
Right,
you
one
right,
can't
okay.
get into it. I
You
just
have to go in from
very
the top,
first time
yeah.
I landed there, and I was just like, all right. And then I went back there to go to the tower, and I was like, well, where the fuck is it? what happened to the tower?
Yeah.
One of the observation towers on Brittle Hollow. Beat my head against. Not really. I mean, I kept going back to it, and I was like, how do I get in this thing? Like, oh, I'll figure it out. Went away. Maybe 10 times. How do I get in this thing? Figure it out. Get sucked into the black hole one time by accident, and like, whoa. Oh, shit.
Was it floating there in front of you, or did it not come through yet?
I was in it. I was on the tower. And
when it got sucked through?
And we both got sucked through. And then I'm floating there, and I was like, ah, shit. Oh, shit. I was like,
That's
let's
amazing.
go. And that's just something that I talk about just stumbling upon. And I'm like, that was incredible.
So awesome. Yeah.
And there's like thousands of moments like
There's
that.
just so many moments.
Yeah,
like
I
that,
know,
yeah.
And I'm just saying, like, those are 2 off the top of my head that I'm just like, I could have figured it out, but I didn't have to.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, the ending was our best moment of the year, but it can't be understated how unique and important that ending was, and it just left me feeling like I'd never felt from a game before, where I was like perplexed and curious and sad, and like it was just such a like intense experience that I was just totally blown away.
It was hard in our playthrough. I've re-listened to it, and I'm glad I masked it. But like, I was trying not to cry. I was trying really hard to not like.
You ninny.
I was trying.
I'm kidding.
I definitely teared up.
I was
at the end of the game.
I was
No
trying
doubt.
hard not to cry. I was just like, oh my god, because
No doubt, I teared up.
It's like a symphony, because it just in the way that it encompasses everything you're doing, where there's this this civilization that ancient civilization of people that you've never met, and you're like learning their story, but also
carrying it forward.
Forward.
It's amazing.
And yet, it's just like this beautiful.
And you're being faced at the same time with the understanding that, like, with the most
Death is imminent.
Death is in.
Yeah.
It's nothing is permanent. Like that's what they're shoving in your face at the end while you're experiencing this like beautiful moment, and it's like trying to tell you like everything is fleeting. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing, like, and for that to come forward like that and not be like banging you over the head and just be like, here's what's going on. I was just so blown away. I was like, this is amazing.
But even that fleeting feeling, and it's not even like in a depressive way, like,
no,
it's
no,
like everything's,
it's like living the
nothing
moment. You
matters.
like experience it.
When you're all around the campfire, and again, it makes me choke up just thinking about it. And when you run into the Nomai, and then he's there, and he says, "Hey, thanks for remembering me."
Yeah,
like
exactly. And it's just like
to me.
That's what's lasting. You know what I mean? That's what carries through time.
That's
you know
it.
what I mean?
It's that the heart of Outer Wilds is the idea of interconnectedness.
Yeah.
I think that is just so refreshing.
It's amazing. It's brilliant.
And a masterpiece.
So clearly that's our number one. We have 2, 3, and 4 here.
I have.
We
set
just
2,
talked
3,
about
and
all
4.
these games.
I think
you
I
have
know.
something in your mind, 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah, I think 2.
Do you have something in your mind, 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah.
I think 2 and 3 can be a little interchangeable for me, but
What do you think is 4 then?
Control.
Agreed.
I think for the, and again, this is top 4, but for the detractions of Control.
Yeah. So we'll put Control as number 4. And then do you think Disco Elysium is number 3 or Sekiro is number 3?
Personally, Disco.
I'm only saying that because I don't have the experience.
Yeah.
I could definitely live with Disco Elysium at number 3 on this list. I would have no issue with that at all because I am the only one that played it. I personally would put it at number 2.
That's
I think Sekiro is an incredible game though, so I'm happy to see that at number 2. I have no problem.
I'm just curious, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Outer Wilds, Sekiro, and Disco Elysium on your list of greatest games of all time?
Out of how many?
If I gave you a top 25.
2 out of those 3 would be on it, yeah.
So Disco Elysium and Outer Wilds.
Yeah. Sekiro might be on it, but it would only be on it at the expense of another Souls game.
Oh.
Because I really like Sekiro a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
How about you, Shelb? Any of these games fall on your all-time?
I mean, I think Outer Wilds always will. I don't have as vast of a list, though, as
I'd be
as
curious,
you guys.
Shelby. One of these days, I'd love to see.
That'd be fun.
It's going to have
A
a
Shelby
shit
list.
ton of PS2 games.
Yeah, I'd
on
love
it.
to see it, Shelb. I feel like we never did that, Shelb, did
Listen,
we?
this
We never did a list of
This is the first series of Xbox I ever owned, so like,
yeah.
and I never played, like, never went to a friend's house and played Halo. Like,
Right.
I didn't play any of those games.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
except for Fusion Frenzy. I did play Fusion
I'd love to
Frenzy.
see that, Shelb. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it's all PlayStation and Nintendo stuff.
right.
Solid.
I'd love
Yeah.
to see it.
All right, guys. Well, that is our top 10 games of the year ordered. I will read them right now. Congratulations to all the top 10, but congrats to Outer Wilds for being our game of the year for 2019.
Snubbed at the awards.
We have
Yeah,
it like
seriously.
this. Number 1, Outer Wilds. Number 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Number 3, Disco Elysium. Number 4, Control. Number 5, Baba Is You. Number 6, Fire Emblem. Number 7, Observation. Number 8, Resident Evil 2. Number 9, Ape Out. And number 10, Death Stranding. Again, congrats to all 10 of these games. This is an amazing list. I'm very happy with this list. I think it's excellent. What a good year for games. I'm very happy with that. And thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Dan, for being here.
This has been awesome. Thank you guys, both of you.
Thank
and
you,
everybody
Shelby,
who's
for
listening.
being here.
I had a hell of a time.
Me too.
And
Seriously,
everyone-
like it was hell.
It was hell. And everyone out there, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And keep your eyes peeled for the next episode of the Circle Back Podcast. Until then, peace. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching and or listening. Just here to remind you that you can find us by searching for Circle Back Podcast or Circle Back Gaming on any of these podcast services: Anchor, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, or Stitcher. By God, I'm out of breath because of all these podcast services, but you can find us anywhere there. Also, you can find our video version on YouTube by searching Circle Back Podcast or Circle Back Gaming, and the rest of the videos we do. Thanks, guys.